Hello everybody, Olatunji here. Let's look at rules of professional conduct. Rules of professional conduct. So when we talk about rule of professional conduct, what do we mean? What do we mean? What are the objectives of this topic that we are discussing when we are putting this together? What do we want to achieve? One of the objectives is to let us know the importance of who we are becoming. The importance of who we are becoming. We are becoming ambassador of ourselves and ambassador of our profession. We are becoming somebody that his or her voice must be listened to or must be heard. And this is so important that we should not leave it out without discussing how we should behave, how we should carry ourselves in the society, what things should we get involved in. Of course, we are adults, but nevertheless, just like every family, we not leave some important discussion undiscussed. Likewise, as a profession and professionals that we are becoming, we need to know that it is important how we deal with others, how we deal with ourselves, how we carry ourselves in the society. So one of the first important objective of the topic is to create the important sense of who we are becoming, that is ambassador of our profession. Also to ensure you are familiar with code of professional conduct. Every profession has its code of conduct that members are expected to adhere to. So to ensure that you are familiar with it, that's where we are bringing it to you. Also, just as we know, we are all adults now and it takes effort to be who we are. Of course, it's going to take greater effort also to become who we want to be. And I tell you the truth, it's toughest to remain at the top. It's easier to climb than to remain on the top. Therefore, this topic prepare our mind for the next future of ourselves and what we are becoming. Okay? So when we are talking about rules of professional conduct, we need to come back home to our mother institute. Ican has adopted IFAC code, that is International Federation of Accountants, the code of the international body all over the world. Ican, as part of the member of IFAC, adopted it. So when we say something is adopted, let's take for example, when we say a child is adopted, it simply means everything that the family that adopted such a child has equal rights that the children, biological children, we have and enjoy, equally such a child that was adopted will be able to enjoy it. So likewise, I can adopted the IFAC code. So it's not about adaptation. When we are talking about we adapt, we are talking about, okay, we will choose and select what we like and what we do not like. But that is not the case. It was adopted. That is, everything was taken in. So we took in everything that IFAC code has. So it simply means if you take in one hand ICANN code and you take in another hand IFAC code, you should see the same thing because it was adopted. Okay, so what is the implication of adoption of IFAC code? The ICANN code must be followed by all members, just like IFAC code must be followed, including student members. So we cannot say, but I'm not a chartered accountant yet. Like, it doesn't matter. You must adhere. Once you are working in that environment, you must adhere to the expectation of the institute. concerning the regulation of its member, whether they are operating as external auditor or assurance provider or internal auditor or accountants. The Ican code also applies to the staff of an accounting practice. That is, regardless whether the person is chartered or not, I'm a secretary, I'm an office assistant, I'm an administrator, it doesn't really matter. Once you are in that environment, it is expected that you are governed by the same rule and principle. So, what are the 5 fundamental principles of this code that we are talking about? What are the expected principles that we are expected to ensure it guides our activity? It guides our worldview. All of them are of importance, but I would like to stress first of all, so you can see, I bold in it, integrity. Integrity. A professional accountant must have integrity. And every professional, whether you're an accountant or not, it doesn't really matter. For somebody to present himself or herself to be of as a professional that could be reckoned with, is important that integrity be our watchword. So when we say integrity, what do we mean? We are talking about somebody's yes to be yes, no to be no. We are talking about somebody that could take position in every circumstance. And somebody with integrity will not sit on the fence. When somebody have integrity, your word is your bond. A professional accountant should be straightforward and honest in all professional and business relationship, even in other normal circumstances. We should be straightforward. So straightforwardness is integrity. Integrity, actually, if we look at the dictionary, we see that it's a very broad topic, a very encompassing word. When we say somebody has integrity, is a big credit to the person. So one of the fundamental principle of the code that must be adhered to is integrity, and it must be our watchword. Another thing is objectivity. Objectivity. Every professional is expected to be objective, without bias or biases. No conflict of interest or undue influence of others to override our opinion or our judgment. Must be objective in our business dealing. If you've been following me, you will see I did a topic on history of audit. So, and one of the things there is objectivity. It's one of the quality that an auditor must have, or a professional in this sense now. Objectivity. We must be people of our own world. We must be able to make our independent judgments about a situation or a thing or an event. Another thing that is expected of us as principle to guide us is professional competence and due care. Professional competence and due care. That means we must update our knowledge. We must update our knowledge. Yesterday's knowledge is not enough for today, just as we know. The rate at which this world is changing is so rapid that anybody that is not moving with the tide will be left behind. So a professional must be competent and must observe due care in all his or her undertaking. Must observe due care Another thing that is important as a principle is confidentiality. Confidentiality. That is, as we go about our daily activities in our workplace, in our practices, and the like, we must be confidential. A lot of information is going to come around us along our way. We are going to see a lot of information. We are going to observe a lot of events, a lot of business secrets, and the like. And it is expected of a professional to be confidential enough to keep it. So confidentiality simply means keeping secrets secret. My brother and sister, keeping secrets secret. Another fundamental principle is technical standard. Technical standard, and I like to demonstrate it this way. When you engage a mechanic, you expect that person to be able to do the job. So that is what technical standard actually means. That person should know enough to be able to do his work. And we demonstrate technicality when we are able to foresee events and to tackle it head on. A technical professional is a person that could do his work the right way and could observe or foresee something that could go wrong ahead even before they will begin to unfold. That is technicality. A professional accountant should comply with relevant laws and regulation and should avoid any action which discredits the profession, even himself or herself. That is technical standard. We must be able to see ahead, even ahead of others in our jurisdiction. Wow, you see a big lion. This is a threat. So let's quickly talk about professional independence. A professional must be independent. That is, nothing should be allowed to encumber our judgments. Nothing, no relationship should be too big enough to influence our decision, our judgment, or what we know is right or that we know is wrong. A professional should be independent, be able to make his or her independent decision without biases, without fear of person or personality. And a lot of things could hinder this being happen. A lot of threats could occur and affect our independence. So, what are the things or factors that could affect our independence? One of it is self-review threats. Basically, we have advocacy threats, intimidation threats, familiarity threats, self-review threats. So let's look at self-review threats. When we're talking about self-review, we're talking about somebody started the work and completed it without any other person looking into it and the like. So it simply means we review our own work. We started the work, we did the work, we finished the work, we planned the work, we submitted the work, we signed the work. Let's take for example, an accountant engaged to do an accounting or accountancy service or bookkeeping service. He or she had kept the book, and after doing that, he or she went ahead to audit the book. You are reviewing yourself, and this is a threat to your professional judgment, because how then will you correct your errors? How then will you make your errors in your accounting preparation of the book open? How are you going to admit? Will you be bold enough to admit publicly that something is wrong with the preparation of the books? Advocacy threats. Advocacy threats. Just as the word sounds, when we are talking about advocacy, we are talking about speaking on behalf of others. That is, we are taking a position to speak on behalf of others or to help others form an opinion and judgment. Let's take for an example, we are to do maybe a due diligence, engage in due diligence, or to do a bank, SS bank charges and things like that. And we've done it. And you know, when you do such a thing, it could lead to litigation. And you do the excess charges work, and you must represent your client in the court of law to defend it, because you prepared it and you are very sure you've taken a position on their behalf that so bank is so is owing you so amount in excess of what they could have charged in your bank statement. So when we take such a position, it's an advocacy threat. That is, we are taking a position, we are becoming a voice for somebody else. They should have been talking themselves, but now we have to talk on their behalf. So it's a threat to our independence, because if at the end of the day the charges is not as bad as what we've advocated it to be, and maybe some other issue come up, it affects our professional independence. Intimidation threat. A professional could actually fall under intimidation and be threatened, and his or her independence affected. Let's take for example, the status of a client could intimidate, especially maybe an upcoming professional, be somebody you've been hearing about, and you suddenly see yourself, you must meet him or her, and you're like, so how will I say what he does or she does is wrong, and things like that? How will I have a discussion with this person? So that's a status intimidation. That's a status intimidation. A lot of things could actually intimidate. Financial capacity could intimidate, and so many other things could intimidate us. So when we are intimidated, maybe a client is saying, if you will not do this and sign this, and you are still insisting on your opinion, well, count yourself out of doing work with us next time. And the professional does not want to lose his fee, maybe in the nearest future. That's an intimidation. The firm or the person is being intimidated. Last but not the least that we are discussing, familiarity threat. Familiarity threat. So when we say familiarity threat, we are talking about somebody being too close or close enough to affect independent opinion or judgment. Let's say, for example, when an auditor begins to know the husband of the wife of the cousin of the nephew of the chief accountant, yes, is becoming or she's becoming familiar or too familiar. And just as they used to say, familiarity brings contempt. So at the end of the day, maybe the professional knows what the accountant is passing through, and so like, But at the end of the day, accountant has, or the person has done some things in the financials, and the professional that could have refilled it, because he or she knows what the person too is going through and has over familiar himself with it, have bias in his judgment. So that is familiarity, because he begins to know too much about the personal life of the person that ordinarily is is there to review his work. So, having discussed some of the threats to our independence, what are the way forward? Some solutions to threats that could happen. One of it, to a greater extent, is to rotate our staff, our audit staff in particular. Don't let somebody stay too much on a particular client's work. Doesn't even really matter whether the person is a junior staff or a partner. Let everybody move around. Let them change position. Let them change clients under their review, so that they will not fall under all these threats that we've mentioned, like being familiar or over familiar. When we stay too much, we become familiar. So it's good that a practice should have it as part of their strategy to ensure that client or staff rather do not move too close, or at least too close for too long on a client's job. So audit staff should be rotated, and this helps a lot to reduce the threats like that of familiarity threat. Another thing that we could do is peer review. Let's others review our work. We can collaborate with other external auditor or other practitioner. I say, okay, you review papers, our working papers, and we review your working papers too. Partners can review each partner's work and the like. But it's good that others take a second look at our work. Review actually has code review, hot review, and the like, but we are not concentrating on that. We are going to deal with such under another topic. Another solution to threat is independent quality control review, which still equally fall under control review, but now we are talking about somebody that is not part of the firm reviewing our work now. Somebody that is not part of the firm, or at least was not part of the assignment, reviewing the work. Another thing that is a solution or strategy is pre-issuance review. When we're talking about pre-issuance review, okay, let me quickly take us to one of the aspects of a standard or the code of conduct. It is expected that when an accounting firm has a client that will pay them maybe at least 15% of their total gross income, it is expected that such a firm reports itself to the mother body. Like, okay, see you as part of our professional thing that we're supposed to do. We are coming back to say we have a client that is paying us or contributing to our gross income maybe to the extent of 15%. So when we have such a client, it is expected that we go to the mother body for at least for information's sake, so that we will not fall under threat, and at least it could be mitigated, we could be assisted. So pre-issuance review and post issuance review are part of the solution to threats. So what is pre-issuance review? It simply means before issuing our opinion or before submitting our audited statement and signed it, a review should come up. And usually pre-issuance review will come up if we are having a client's engagement that pays us in excess of 15% of our gross per annum. Pre-issuance review is advised to be done. That is before we make an express opinion. Let other independent reviewer assist us to ensure that no threat has come into the opinion or our judgment is not clouded. Post issuance review could be done, which simply means after we had issued our opinion. Post issue post issuance review, that is after we've issued our opinion. So that could be done for quality control purposes. So these are some of the solutions that we could use to mitigate against threat to our professional independence. By the way, if you've been enjoying this topic and this discourse, don't forget to like us, subscribe to us, like Gjames Associates channel so that we can have more of this. So let's move on. Confidentiality. Confidentiality. So when we are talking about confidentiality, we are talking about a code or an ethic that we should adhere to. And it simply means a professional should keep secret secret. Confidentiality is a fundamental principle of professional behavior that information obtained in the course of our professional work should not be disclosed to others or used, even by ourselves. So we must ensure non-disclosure and personal use. So when we are talking about confidentiality, we are talking that of a professional ensuring that the secret of the engagement is kept secret. Don't just disclose loosely to people or parties that are not relevant to the engagement, or that the information is not made available for their use because you come about it in the course of your professional work. So it is expected as a professional to be able to do this or train ourselves enough to be able to do this. So what are some of the exceptions to our confidentiality? Or when are we permitted to disclose one or two things that had come to our knowledge? Disclosure is permitted by law and consent has been obtained from the party to whom the duty of confidentiality is due. So if the law permits us, or we've discussed with our clients and they told us no problem, you can go ahead and discuss the information with the relevant party that you've mentioned. So we can go ahead and let the other party or under the law that has permitted us know what they required of us about that particular client. Disclosure is required by the law. If the law says it, we have to do it. There is a professional duty or right to disclose. So let's say under the Ican code or IFAC code, we are not actually prohibited to have done that, maybe for one reason or the other. You can go ahead and disclose what we know about the circumstance. What are other exceptions to the rule of confidentiality? The Icon Code of Conduct provides the following illustration of when disclosure is required. So now we are talking about professional disclosure now, apart from when legally we are told or we've been supported by law to disclose. Producing documents or other evidence in the course of legal proceeding. If a legal proceeding affects us and it is expected that evidence be submitted to back up our judgment, let's say our opinion during the work, we have no choice but to do that. Disclosure to the appropriate public authority for, of infringement of the law. Let's say our client is into terrorism, drug trafficking, and any other, let's say, money laundering activity. It is expected that we disclose. Even just knowing it or just perceiving it, that they are into money laundering, we are expected professionally to disclose it. Professional duty. Right to disclose when not prohibited by law. To comply with the quality review of a member body or professional body. Let's say we have independent reviewer coming to our firm to review the standard of our work, maybe sent to us by our mother body or internationally sent to look at the files. Well, we are bound as professional under professional duty to disclose it. When we are responding to investigation inquiry by the regulator, let's say tax authority wrote us that they would like to know how we arrive at the tax figure of our clients and things like that. We have to do it also to protect the professional interest. Let's say our client is owing us and things like that. A legal proceeding is going on. Maybe a client took us to court and things like that. And maybe they are claiming negligence. We must respond and let them know and see to what extent we've done our work. And we cannot do that without providing evidence of work done. So confidentiality by that time could be unveiled. To comply with technical standard and ethical requirements. That is, if the professional body wants us to do that and expects us to do that. We could have other similar circumstances for us to disclose, but we should be careful when we disclose. We must ensure that we disclose within the law, within the boundary of the law, and within the expectation of our professional body. So let's discuss the confidentiality of our working paper. So now we are talking about auditors, accountants that have gone a step forward to become an auditor. Maybe training as an auditor, working in accounting practice, confidentiality of our working paper. So, by the way, who owns working paper? Who owns working paper? Let me quickly answer that. Working paper, that is the papers or the information we've gathered in the course of our audit, belongs to us. So the working paper belongs to the auditor. The information in the working paper, of course, is about our client, but the working paper itself, the custody of the working paper, belongs to us because it's an evidence of work done. I want to believe you've enjoyed this. Being Olatunji, signing off. Please, if you've enjoyed, subscribe to us at Gjames Associate channel. Like us, share. Gjames Associates, we are value to your lives. We are value to your business.